Hey, everybody, listen up. I got mega huge news. Meat Eater Live is heading back out on the road. That's right. Join me and the crew. Clay Newcomb, Cal, Yanni, Spencer's going to be there. Phil the Engineer's going to be there. Meat Eater Live, headed back out. Now, when you get every ticket, okay, every ticket you buy, you get a signed copy of our new Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook. This tour is celebrating the release of the book. Buy a ticket, get a signed copy, Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook, wild game recipes for the grill, smoker, camp stove, and campfire, which I'll point out is a $38 value. Here's where we're going to go. April 23rd, the Mesa Art Center in Mesa, Arizona. April 24, the Balboa Theater in San Diego. April 25, the Grove in Anaheim, California. April 27, the Crest Theater in Sacramento. April 29, the Union in Salt Lake City. April 30, the Egyptian in Boise. May 1, the Wilma Theater in Missoula. May 2, the Bing Crosby Theater in Spokane, Washington. May 4, Revolution Hall in Portland, Oregon. And May 5, the last day of the tour, Pantages Theater in Tacoma, Washington. For tickets and more information, visit the events page at themeateater.com. Hope to see you at the show.
Hey, I'm Tyler.
And I'm KC.
And I'm Eric.
And you're listening to
The Element Podcast. What's happening, y'all? Guess what?
Guess it.
We are not in Texas, but there is still weather to be talked about. It is storming like crazy outside today, and it wasn't even supposed to.
Today we've got a storm moving in. Tornado watch out.
Mark Skirto over here.
Nobody will get that.
We are.
Except for me.
We've been up in Illinois and other states, scouting for world records and looking for all kinds of deer stuff and even doing a little bit of turkey hunting. But one of the main reasons we're up here is that there's a guy here sitting with us, my brother, according to some.
Yeah, Mr. Peaky. Peaker number 2.
Eric Gentry is going to be running camera for us a lot this year, hanging out with us a ton, hunting with us a ton, and this is kind of our opportunity to all get together and hang out this spring. It's very brisk spring up here. It's very like summer at home, so it's kind of a weird thing. We've been wearing a lot of clothes up here, but we came up here and did some scouting with Eric, did some hunting with Eric for some turks. I'm sure we'll talk about that, but Eric Gentry, what's up, man?
What's going on, everyone? Glad to be with you guys.
That's what I'm talking
glad
about.
You're here, man.
Dude, he's so good.
He is. He's smooth.
He's already good.
He's smooth.
He's got a good voice too.
Oh yeah.
And it's not just it's not like a face for podcasts. It's a voice for podcasts.
Yeah,
but his face is actually pretty good.
There you go.
Know?
There you go. Oh yeah, and that's why people think we look alike.
We got asked 3 times now.
I think
Something
so.
Like that.
Yeah, we're brothers.
We've known each other for like 2 months.
I keep going off of this thing. It's like, how weird is it to be like to total strangers? Hey, are y'all brothers?
Right.
It's like, because people are brothers quite often.
Yeah, it's like when a couple walks in, are you gonna be like, "Hey, are y'all husband and wife?"
Probably. I mean, why would you ask that?
Maybe not.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, up here in Chicago, it may not be.
I don't know. We ain't going there.
We're here. That's where Eric's hometown is.
Oh gosh, yeah, I know it. It's scary, scary land. But Eric is a guy who's done a little bit of filming and stuff, and is going to help us out a ton this year doing that stuff, and probably going to spend quite a few nights with his head laying down in Texas this fall more than Illinois. But we want to talk a little bit about kind of what you've done in the past hunting wise. Because
I would like to actually, before though, I would like to get your thoughts on why you think people ask you if y'all are brothers so much. What is it about y'all?
Well, we both have long hair.
Yep.
We both have beards.
Yep.
And
I think your eyes are really close to the same color.
That's it. We have sparkly eyes.
Sparkly eyes, yeah.
And I guess you're a little more redheaded than me.
A little bit,
but I have the kind of a red tinge to my beard stuff, especially. So
red beards.
That's it.
Yeah.
I guess we're about the same height.
Yeah.
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 So I don't know.
I mean, y'all look a lot alike. I think
it's good.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Well,
What?
It just makes me think about the pizza lady the other night that asked y'all.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
she
She
basically
has a crush on Eric.
yeah, she told me that she likes Eric. I said, which one of them looks better? And she looked over at Eric, and then she looked down at her feet, and she said, I can't say.
Oh,
She was like, it was a trap.
I got some real good jokes. that I'm not
Chicago
gonna tell.
pizza's good, man.
It is, dude. Deep dish. Can't beat a deal like that.
Mm-hmm.
But
Ever had Peoria pizza? Peoria pizza?
no, I haven't.
You hadn't?
Is it get the quadruple P there, can't you?
Yeah, Peoria, pineapple, jalapeno, which is also a pepper, and pepperoni pizza.
Eric doesn't like peppers.
Really?
I like some peppers. There's some I like. I
Okay.
like
Which ones?
I like green peppers, red peppers.
I thought you didn't like green peppers. We
No, I
talked about-
said I did.
Green peppers.
Yeah.
it's just new to you.
Yeah,
You're new to liking
yeah,
it.
I'm new to liking these
Will
things.
you eat it raw?
Yeah.
Will
I
you
think
eat it
would.
cooked like fajita?
Yeah.
All right.
Remember, it's not mushy. As long as it's a little crisp.
Yeah. So,
I got you.
green peppers, hot ones.
Yeah, I could do that.
You could do some hot ones. You pretty good with spicy food?
Yeah, I like spicy.
Neither
I-
of y'all wanted to touch the habanero salsa that I had. the
No,
other night.
because we looked at
Yeah.
you in pain and said that's a pretty bad idea.
It was a bad idea.
KC pulled up this little salsa. They had this Mexican food place that we went to, and dumped it on a chip, right? And it was
Yeah.
like, it wasn't like normally when you get salsa out of a bowl, you like dip a good dip. You know what I mean? You put a good dip in.
That's
you know?
right.
And so
That's what that's about, salsa, I think.
But when you take the habanero, I don't know what
It's
kind of
more
sauce
like hot
is that?
sauce.
It's like a hot sauce.
Yeah, it's like kind of like a Louisiana sauce that you can kind of dab
Yeah.
out.
And you put the same amount that you would of
Well,
salsa on there.
that's
It was
dumb.
like, and you're pretty good with hot stuff, but
I don't like the hottest of hot.
you were
I'm not a
in pain.
habanero eater.
Yeah.
You know, it's not me. I like.
But you misread you didn't misread the label, but you saw that the green one was habanero, so you thought,
I
this
just
red one would
assumed
be.
the other one, the red one, would just be
it'd be
like
fine.
chili peppers or something. You know. But
Next thing you know, he's over here like, I gotta have this water.
I was eating dry chips just as fast as you know,
like
woodchucking, which we saw a woodchuck. Right?
How about
or,
that?
Groundhog, woodchuck, the same
We
thing.
saw groundhog.
Groundhog. That's
I don't
it.
remember seeing the woodchuck.
Is that the
though.
same
Did we?
thing or not?
Is it? I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't have a clue.
Well, dude, listen, that's the first one I've ever seen. So I did see some.
We know about ringtail cats
in Maryland. I've seen them in Maryland before.
Maryland, huh?
Yeah. I was up there for
I like the emphasis you put on that.
Maryland?
Maryland.
That's right, dude.
It's the land of Mary
That's
and
right.
Joseph.
It's like this is Illinois. How bad do people get mad if you say Illinois?
Well, for people in Illinois, we're just kind of used to it. You know,
Yeah.
just oh yeah, you're not from Illinois. It's Illinois.
That's fine.
It's Illinois, not Illinois.
Yeah.
We're
I'm
gonna
okay
clarify.
with people not knowing I'm not from here.
Yeah,
That's fine.
when people call it Texas, we get real mad too.
That's right, it's chaos.
Texas, right? Texas down there.
Yeah.
Just in case y'all didn't know, if you're not from Texas, then you should definitely not call it Texas when you come, and call it Texas
Yeah.
to people when you meet them.
Yeah. So Eric, when did you start hunting?
My first year of hunting was 2012. I got into it then and watched a lot of Outdoor Channel and kind of got out of it I was hunting private land. Like I said, I was watching Outdoor Channel a lot. So that was kind of in my head, like, hey, you got to have private land to hunt. And I was totally wrong on
Who's your
that.
biggest inspiration off of the Outdoor Channel in 2012?
I was watching a lot of Lee and Tiffany at the time.
Yeah, it's a good show.
Yeah.
It's hard to. We've talked about this before. I think Lee and Tiffany do a great job.
Yeah.
But it's hard to, like, nobody else comes close in the world, really. You know what I mean?
Killing stuff
to
they
just
do.
managing and killing deer like
Yeah.
that. You know what I mean? So it kind of sets a precedent that. But at the same time, like, you don't watch the MLB and think, oh yeah, I can throw a 97 mile per
You're
hour
right.
fastball. You know.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but yeah, go ahead. Keep going.
Yeah, so I watched them, and when you see all that success and you don't have success in the woods, you kind of get depressed about it, and you kind of get down and out about it, and you see your other friends having success. So kind of fell out of it for a few years, but got back into it in 2016 when I started watching YouTube hunting and came across Bill Winke and Midwest Whitetail, which led me to the hunting public, which led me to you guys. And
Sweet.
Yeah, I've been hunting public since 2016 and love it.
Cool, dude.
Yeah.
Just living on it, man.
Yeah,
living on it, dude. And so what? I think that. How did you have permission to hunt private when you were doing that at first?
Yeah. I was getting permission here and there to hunt these private lands, and of course at the time it was my first year of hunting, so I'm going in there scouting, not knowing what I'm looking for, so that didn't help.
Yeah, dude.
Are
I'm
you-
telling you. I mean, it ain't easy to
No.
scout without having done it for for a few years at least.
And especially up in here, I'm sure you guys have seen this, especially here in Illinois, when you're seeing sign there. It's like, what do you do?
Yeah.
What's the good sign?
Yeah.
You know, and also like even when you have been scouting for a long time, like we have, a lot of it's just inference anyways. So the only way to prove it is to like year in and year out kind of test those theories. You know, like we walk around all the time doing these Map Scout Challenge videos and stuff, and like, yeah, last year we shot a bunch of deer after doing them, so that kind of helps prove it. But like in the moment, there's no way to be like, oh yeah, I was right about that.
Right.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So like even us
Some
today,
people didn't. Some people on YouTube even can do that.
That's right. But like even us this week, like we'll walk around and like be like, oh, this is what I think about this. I could be completely wrong, but it's what we think. You know what I mean? So like I know the difficulties that you run into with that scouting deal. Did you do any passing of deer whenever you were hunting your first year?
My first year, no, I did. I actually shot at one buck and missed completely.
Were you going to shoot anything you could?
Yeah, back then. Yeah,
Good.
What size buck was it? Kind of.
It was just a button buck back then.
Yeah.
It's kind of a funny story. I'm going to tell it. It's kind of embarrassing, but I don't care.
those stories.
We've got plenty of them.
Like I said, I was a new hunter watching a lot of Outdoor Channel, and I didn't have any guide of hunting or anything like that. So it's like one of my first times hunting, and I'm in the blind, and I let out a grunt. You know, I see it on TV. I want to let out a grunt, and a button buck comes right through the brush staring
Just like
at
on
me.
TV.
And I still have my grunt in my mouth and draw my bow back, because on TV when you get a deer to stop, what do? They
They grunt it.
To my head, I was like, well, how do they keep that grunt in their mouth when they shoot?
I love it.
It's funny, dude.
And so I got this bow drawed with the grunt in my mouth, shoot it, and what happened, the string hits my grunt call out of my mouth, and just, I don't know what happened. It was just crazy.
Dude, I love that story so much.
That's
But
good,
that's first lesson right off the bat I got.
Dude,
And,
we need some. Maybe we need to be running more second angle to let people know it's not like you just take things for granted sometimes. Like people don't know that you're actually doing a.
That's a man. Yeah, that's. But have you ever seen the little thing that they advertise on Outdoor Channel or whatever? Has a piece of surgical tubing that runs to your grunt call. Yeah, so it's like, I don't remember what they call it, but it's like this little hose that comes out at your neck right here, like your turtleneck spot, and you just go and blow on it, and the grunt call. They even have one that it runs all the way to the ground.
Really?
Yeah. So you can grunt at the ground while you're up.
Well, maybe that's what I need.
And then I watched. You know who Mark Rober is? Either one of y'all?
I know the name.
He has a YouTube channel. He's just slightly more famous than us, but he does I think he actually helped. I may be wrong on this. Y'all are gonna laugh if I am, but I think he actually was a big part of the Mars rover.
And his name's
saga.
Mark Rober.
His name is Mark Rober, and he's like a engineer, scientist kind of guy, and he did one on a horn and made a giant horn, and that they could hear for like 10 miles or whatever.
Dang.
And he was talking about how the horn actually why the sound is better through a horn or louder through a horn or whatever. So
It amplifies as it goes through there on the brass instrument or whatever.
yeah, well, I can't remember exactly. My kids were watching it with me, and I was a little bit tuned out, but it was something about forcing all the sound waves in through a little tiny gap or whatever. But I was thinking we could make one of those for the ground underneath our stands.
We've got a lot of ideas. Me and my dad have got a couple of those too that I don't think will ever see the light of day, but they might work.
We need Butch back on the podcast.
Well, you got to talk to him about that because sometimes he gets a little bashful.
Does he?
Yeah,
I don't see that, man.
he'll be all right. Yeah. Well, that was your first year hunting.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was on private land.
Yep.
And so why have you? Why have you? I feel like, and I may be wrong, but have you written off? I feel like you've written off a little bit private land, and why?
It's not that I have written off. It's just I kind of like challenges. I'm pretty competitive, so I like the challenge of public land, and I like fighting other pressure because I feel like I'm competing against someone else.
Yeah, sure.
It's just in my nature.
Competitive. Talk about your stats, bro. Let's hear
My
your stats.
stats?
Let's hear
They're
them.
not very good.
No, they're not.
No.
What about the sports stats, man?
You
got a few, don't you?
They're all right, I guess.
Yeah.
No, I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you still have the record?
No, I don't anymore.
They
No,
broke?
No,
They broke.
so the guy I broke, I was a quarterback in high school and broke some passing records, but the guy I broke, his son ended up beating my records a few years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Bubble screens, man.
Yeah.
That's where people rack up the yards, you know.
I'm not bitter or anything. That kid was a pretty good quarterback. So.
Yeah.
Was he EIU good or anything?
Yeah, I think he was. Yeah, he was pretty good.
Oh, man.
Yeah, that's Tony Romo.
I know,
mean,
dude.
That's
QB
where Tony Romo
school.
played. Yeah.
Sean Payton.
Dang, bro.
Golly, dude.
Just legendary.
I know, just
Illinois.
kings of the castle over here.
Just corn fed, man. Just grow big old boys that are athletic.
Yeah. So, you killed a couple deer with your bow, but
Yes.
you haven't killed a buck yet. And that's
Nope.
kind of what you're set out to do.
Yeah, and that was my main goal last year, and it kind of, I could have shot a doe, but I was so concentrated on the buck, and I should have
Understand.
shot the doe because I don't have any meat.
Dude, sometimes that's the way it goes. Like if you shoot the first one, you won't see the next one or whatever. You know, like we talk about it a lot. Like if you want to shoot a big deer, you got to pass some small ones to shoot a big one. And sometimes if you just want to shoot a buck, you got to pass some does to shoot a buck. So
You started filming, when was it, 2 years ago?
Well, when I hunted, I already had a Nikon camera anyway, so I was like, I just want to bring my camera on just because and film and put some episodes together, just whatever, for my own personal self, really.
Yeah.
And then it just became like I made these episodes and started putting them on YouTube just because it's out there and it's free. I mean, no reason not to.
Yeah.
Kind
You
of
got
holds
some
your
cool
catalog.
stuff, too.
Yeah, I think so too, man.
Yeah.
You do a really good job of setting up shots. You got a good eye for it, man, and like the story's told really well. I like what you
appreciate it, man.
That,
Appreciate it.
footage of that deer going across the river last year.
Yeah, that's cool. And it's cool getting that stuff when you're self-filming. I mean,
Yeah.
it makes
Oh,
it
yeah.
We'll
so
talk
much
about
fun.
that a little bit because you hunted strictly from the ground last year, right?
Yeah, well, really, I've hunted strictly from the ground until up last year. So about 4 years, I've been strictly on the ground, and that's basically just because I was unsure if I wanted what kind of. Do I want a climber? Do I want a ladder? Do I want to hang on? Or do I want a saddle? And the saddle is something I kind of learned about over the last year or two. And that's something that I just went to immediately because of how light it is. And, I mean, look at your climbers and hang on. It's just metal, and it's really clanky, and it's heavy. And if you're doing public land and walking around a lot on being mobile, you're going to want something lighter like a saddle.
Yeah. So when did you buy the saddle?
Last November.
So did you hunt out of it at all?
Yeah, I hunted in it in November and December.
Okay.
Yep.
What'd you think about it?
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, soon as I got it, I was like, oh, this is legit.
Yeah.
This is legit.
Dude, you're gonna love it. Did you shoot a deer out of it? Because
No,
you
I
didn't shoot
didn't.
one last year.
No.
Yeah. So when you shoot a deer out of it, you're gonna be like, "Whoa, dude!"
Yeah.
Like pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, it's cool. Eric has been talking about kind of his selection of a saddle as the first thing that he has ever hunted out of. And quite honestly, I'm pretty sure he didn't actually select a platform to hunt with his saddle. He actually hunted off his sticks. Well, I've got good news for Eric and every single one of you guys out there. Cruiser Saddles is launching their brand new platform. It's called the Seeker. It's a pretty cool little twist on kind of what you've seen for traditional platforms. It actually has an angled lip edge or front end, whatever you want to call it, that keeps from putting all the pressure of your body weight right in that arch of your foot. Instead, it spreads it out. I can just see that this thing is going to be super comfortable. They actually launch Friday, May 7th for pre-order, I believe. So if you're listening after that date, go out there and order your Cruiser Seeker platform. It's going to be awesome. Eric's a lefty.
Yep.
Which kind of makes that a little bit weird, but it made it cool for us today. We'll talk about that later. But
Dude, talk about covering 360 on the tree, dude.
But so everybody always thinks about the weak side of the saddle as being 3 o'clock or whatever. We talked about that last night on a different podcast deal, but weak side for you is actually 9 o'clock.
Yep.
Which almost means that if we're ever self-filming, all three of us sharing spots with each other might be hard because we choose trees that are set up for right-handed shooters as saddle hunters. You know what I mean? So Eric,
It's almost like an opposite wind on a location
I know.
work for him.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah, it's weird.
I haven't really it's not weird to be left-handed. It's unusual. Well, we were discussing the word weird earlier. Eric has a food thing, and he says I don't like weird foods, and then we're like, well, do I like weird foods then? Or
Then,
like,
of course, we had to talk about every food under the sun.
That's right. Eric once threw up at the side of yogurt. So, it's either last year or when he's little. We can't really figure
He
that out.
said, I threw up one time because of yogurt, and I was like, okay, he put it in his mouth, and it was nasty. No, he was staring at a cup of yogurt.
Did you ever think to stop staring?
No, not then.
But so that lefty thing, that's kind of a new twist on it, and I don't know, but you're right. Like if you were like in South Dakota, you got a cameraman hunter setup,
Dude.
like you really could like set your platforms on the same level,
Yeah.
and then just kind of like
Just hand the camera
be
over.
kind of weird with the one another up there, but like it's just like the camera's in between you,
Yeah.
and then like. If it's on this side, this guy shoots. On this side, this guy shoots.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool.
It is cool, man. I like it.
Did you, so have you bought a bow new?
No, I haven't. I bought all used.
Was it difficult to, start bow hunting, trying to find used bows for a lefty? Or did you?
Actually, no. There's an archery shop south of my hometown, and they actually had one left-handed bow in stock, and
Perfect.
that's it. I want it.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Yeah,
That's
well,
cool.
I guess that's true. You can't be super picky
Yeah.
whenever you're one of the rarer
Right.
attributes out there, right? So,
Did you throw a football left-handed?
No, right-handed.
I was thinking
so I've
you
done
did.
everything my whole life right-handed, but for some reason I could do a lot of things left-handed.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you
but
said
you
you-
could throw a football
Yeah, I could
left-handed,
shoot a basketball left-handed. I could throw a football left-handed.
You
I
switch hitter
and I
in
can switch
high
hit.
school?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The reason you shoot left-handed is the eye thing, right? It's the left eye dominant. Is that
Yep,
what you were
yep.
saying?
Yeah. That's funny because my dad is just like me. We're the least left-handed people in the world, and he's left eye dominant. So, but he's still, he's a pretty good shot with a bow, and but it just is such a neat thing to me to think about because, like, can't do anything left-handed hardly at all. But like people like you that are out there that can like probably throw a baseball like 70 with the left and with the right or whatever. It's like, oh my gosh, like
I don't know if I
crazy.
could throw a baseball 70 with my left.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it might
it's
be
not
like
quite
50.
the same. I got you.
That's your knuckleball arm.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you
gotcha.
go.
Can
Yeah.
you drive in the paint with your left arm?
Yeah, I'm not very good with the left layup, just
Yeah.
strictly left.
I thought you were dunking most of the time.
No, not these days.
No.
You did better than me. I can't even do a layup.
we passed by the gym the other day, and he said, "Yeah." I said, "Can that hold the rain you're dropping from the 3-point land?" And he's like, "It holds that, but it doesn't hold me from jumping out of the gym."
Oh, yeah, that's cool.
Okay, so you got your bow, and let's see, you actually haven't ever gun hunted, right?
Nope.
Okay, so and you're probably not going to anytime soon, right?
I'd probably gun hunt during turkey season. I'll probably do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What
Okay.
about pig season?
Oh, I'll do that. For sure. Some CZ guns.
So, a little throwback to this. This is like, us introducing Eric, like, officially, but he came down and videoed the hog hunt stuff with us, and Eric not got to be, but I was lucky to have Eric as my over-the-shoulder guy when I shot 4 pigs at once with a shotgun,
it was
and it
so
was
awesome.
pretty sick.
It was my first time ever seeing hogs.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
The first hogs you ever
Yeah.
saw.
Yeah.
And I was just rolling them. I didn't even let him look at them.
He did a good job. He did a good job, too.
That's when we knew it was like, this is going to work.
If I saw like my first bear, I'd be like looking over the screen. I wouldn't have a clue what I was filming. Like, whoa.
Our camera guy last year saw his first bear, and he was not looking over the screen. He was looking over his shoulder as he ran away.
He was looking for the truck.
That's right.
Like, where is the truck?
Yeah. But we actually ran around with you some this week and did some scouting and stuff. And we were kind of talking about the difficulties of scouting or whatever, and looked at a place that you hunt quite a bit, and looked at some other stuff, or whatever. And it's a lot different than what we see at home.
Yeah.
I think that whitetail across the board. Habitat is going to be habitat, and food's food, but they're all different in, I guess what species they're eating and living around and all that kind of stuff, But I don't know, what are some of the things that, like, you have learned to key in on up here, like, for whitetail hunting, because you seem to be So let's back up on this a little bit. As a public land hunter, you understand success is not dead animals. Success is seeing a deer. Right?
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
Yeah, you seem to be having quite a bit of success.
Pretty
in
good
October.
encounters with bucks too.
Yeah. I mean, you were telling me how many times you draw your bow back this year?
There was at least 4 or 5 times before I shot the buck. I shot a buck, but I didn't find it. So before that, I came full draw on at least 4 or 5 different bucks. And
That's pretty nice. That's pretty nice.
Yeah.
So what are some of the things that you're like keying in on?
I really try to concentrate on food. Like what are they going to be eating?
too,
Where are they going to be eating this time of year? Where are they eating?
Yeah.
And the place we're at today is kind of tough for that, especially because there's not a lot of ag fields around. There's a lot of acorns, but not a lot of ag fields. So it's really hard to fight that when there's not a lot of food around because it's a really big missing piece.
Yeah. You use elevation a lot too, huh? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So like if depending on what piece you're hunting or whatever, but if there's like big ridges, creeks, draws, and stuff like that, like you were talking to me about some of the instances that you had with some of the bucks this year and how you were kind of looking at maps and stuff and you're like, well, these 2 like secondary ridges that come off the main ridge really kind of make a bridge across this whole entire ridge, you know? So like if you look on a big, people talk about saddles over like one ridge, but this is almost like a, half-mile stretch of ridge, secondary ridge coming from east to secondary ridge going out to the west or whatever, So you focus on that a lot, I guess, too.
Yeah.
Hunt it in the creeks some too, right?
Yeah. And what I really like to do is experience. I mean, just learning things day by day and what you learned from last year. I mean, let's say if I'm going out to deer hunt tomorrow and I hunted today, I'm going to take what I did today and use it tomorrow, So that's kind of like what you're talking about today, where those deer were coming from over that little bridge you're talking about. I had previous encounters with bucks down in that creek bottom. And so I knew that. And I think back then it was something with pressure. I remember that is in this area that made me think that they're using that bridge, going from that spot to that spot, and that's why I set up on that day that spot that day, thinking that they were going to cross that bridge because they don't want to go, I think, south because it's just parking lot access, and that's where all the hunters are heading. So they're probably going to head deeper across that bridge, towards that other secondary ridge.
Do you ever pay, because it seemed like today you didn't really worry about the white oaks too much because there's a ton of them in there. I don't know if that's like a thing for you normally, or are there times that you pay a lot of attention to them?
I like the oaks. I told you guys a little bit about this when the beans turn yellow. I really like the acorns because they just disappear, and that's where they're going. I feel like is the timber looking for acorns.
You showed us some trail camera stuff, like some pics and stuff of some summertime deer, and then I'm guessing you ran some trail cameras during season and stuff like that too. Yep. We found in Texas that summertime trail cameras are fun, but it hardly ever translates into like seeing a deer that you get.
Yeah.
Is that way up here too?
That's what I got in that piece with all those big bucks on. Yeah, I got summer pictures all year, and then just come September, they're just gone. And then it's just, you got to start over pretty much.
Yeah.
It's frustrating.
Now, was the in-season stuff kind of same? That buck that you shot at, did you have him on trail camera?
No, I didn't. Yeah. No. And I didn't actually run cameras down in that area, so...
That was the same area where you shot, right? Where you're getting different big bucks and stuff down there. So that deer wasn't on camera, showed up on what date?
November 7th. The one I shot, you're talking about?
Yeah.
The one you shot at was November 7th.
That's a good date.
This year was hot, so
yeah,
that first week of November was hot.
It was.
Yeah, it was. I think most of the country was that way.
Yeah.
I know we were in Kansas and in Texas in that early November stuff, and it was smoking.
And that's exactly why I set up on the river that day, is because it was hot. My thoughts were, a doe in heat's going to need water at some point. And there's a big river here, and previous in October earlier that year, I had filmed a bunch of doe in the river, and so I just went and set up on that exact same spot, and sure enough, buck crossed right there.
And he drank while he was standing in the river, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
yeah, dude. Eric got some pretty sick footage of that. That's cool.
Did you come to full draw in October this year? Any?
The day you shot.
Oh, that's right. To the 23rd.
That crazy
day I shot a deer in
that crazy
Illinois.
day here in Illinois.
Yeah. And so, what were you hunting that day?
You say what was I hunting?
Yeah, like what type of habitat or?
I was going into the timber for acorns. As that cold front coming in, and I just knew they were going to be cruising through those woods.
Yeah, and so when typically are you seeing beans turn yellow, deer turn on to acorns?
It kind of changes every year, just depending on how hot it is in October. It's sometime in October they'll turn yellow.
So they turn because of the frost, I guess.
Yeah, and it can get hot in October, so it can get hot and dry, so they'll get real yellow and dry.
Dry them out,
yeah.
I've been around soybeans a little bit when I worked in South Texas, and some of them would turn yellow at midsummer. I think they have like a lifespan, right? So like maybe like 100 days from planting, they turn yellow, no matter when that planting happens. I imagine up here that planting happens. I mean, we're up here in early May, and they're drilling soybeans right now. So, I don't know what the dates are or whatever, but I think that probably has a lot to do with it too. I'm sure there's all those other factors that matter. But because the reason I say all that is that like it was late July in coastal Texas plains, and there'd be yellow soybeans. So it's not just about weather or whatever.
So what is your what are you going to focus on next year up here, and what are you going to how are you going to kill a buck next year up here?
Man, I feel like I was pretty close last year. I think if I had a saddle the whole season, I'd have a buck.
Yeah,
I believe that.
You feel like, why do you feel that is? I guess
I was picked. I came full draw on 4 or 5 different bucks, and I was picked off by all of them on the ground.
Yeah. That's how I feel too, man. It's like, I don't know, ground hunting is cool and fun, and it can be done, but a lot of times that was a rhyme. Sorry about that.
It's all right.
A lot of times though, like I just feel like that last moment is where it just all goes haywire. And there's another thing to think about too, and I've probably talked about this on the podcast before, but when you come to full draw on the ground, even if you get a shot off, a lot of times that deer's going to be looking into the sun or whatever, and it sees you draw. It looks over at you and it stops, and you rush a shot, and or the buck drops because he's on high alert, right? He's going to jump the string, and from the ground, string jump is just ain't even a one lung or nothing.
We've proved it time and time again. Really, last year my South Dakota buck is kind of like the ultimate example. I grunted him into 20 yards, but he knew I was there, and it was kind of. I had a good back cover, so he didn't really see me draw, but he knew I was there the whole time. And as soon as I shot, he dropped and hit him just in the. Like it had to be a 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter spot that was a bad spot to hit, so no penetration, and it lost him. But
the T-bone, basically, right?
Pretty much, yeah, just the hardest piece of bone on a deer's shoulder. But that ground thing is just so tough on whitetails, man, and it seems like you enjoy the difficulty of that stuff sometimes, because today we spent how many hours? 8 hours, your watch said, chasing turkeys, right? Because and we were chasing turkeys around, and it didn't cost us, but you were doing it with a bow, which I don't really care to attempt unless they make me. So
meat hunter, baby.
It sounds difficult, but yeah, you kind of thrive on that difficulty side of things. Are you going to be okay with taking measures to make things a little easier for yourself?
Yeah, I will.
So is your aversion to rangefinders because you haven't bought one yet, or because you like the difficulty of
basically
ranging?
Just because I haven't bought one yet.
Yeah.
It is hard. It's one of those things you need, but like I've been thinking about this a little bit too with the rangefinders, because I've always had a cheap one, like a $70 rangefinder or whatever. And it almost messed me up last year. The Texas buck, it was just one of those evenings where it was just darker earlier than like you feel like it should be, and everything out there is just grayscale. There's no like really timber for me to like see contrast or anything. And luckily the tree that I was sitting in was a cottonwood that had like some branches had fallen down and died or whatever, and they were on the ground. They were white. and that's the only way I was able to figure out how far that deer was because I couldn't see through it because it's just a cheap rangefinder. It was so dark in my I got to see fine, but when I put it up to my eyes, just pitch black, and I had to find the white thing, range it, look at it, and go, that's 20. Okay, he's another half of that, and that's how I knew he was 30.
And you smoked him.
I smoked him, but
it was right after you'd ranged something. And
yeah, and it was not
had a pretty good miss.
Yeah, it was
which
a
is
3-yard difference.
Not normal for you.
And I didn't shoot well, so
Yeah.
it was a bad deal.
But that was a good shot after. It's a pretty tough thing to do is to have a bad shot and then follow it up in an hour on another giant buck and just make it count.
I guess I totally. I think I talked about it in my interview. I just felt completely like there was somebody else taking the wheel.
So next year, what date are you going to kill your Illinois buck?
When we go? Oh, Illinois.
Yeah.
Well, when can I come home and hunt?
Just take that out of the equation. Just tell us. Is it if you just kind of were like
you had the whole season.
If I had the whole season, I'd say October 30th.
Really?
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
Man, that's a good date for us, too. We've seen some trail cameras light up on the 30th, 31st at home there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that date a lot.
Are you saying that after some exploration that we did this week that makes you feel better about that?
Bumping up that date a little bit.
Yeah. So we went out and scouted kind of one of your home properties that you'd spent hunting a lot of time on or spent a lot of time hunting on. Sorry.
Chicago suburbs.
We are pretty sleep deprived at the moment, but thanks to our sponsor, caffeine in a squirty drink, we're doing okay. But we kind of, I don't know, all three kind of put our heads together and maybe looked at some new spots and stuff, right? Like you expressed to me that you kind of always had the get way far back away from people, but you've been interested in the concept of hunting next to the road and stuff like that because you feel like there's maybe a soft zone there.
Well, I've seen bucks. I've walked out of the parking lot and have seen bucks watching the parking lot. Well, I'm gone. I mean, it's smart on their part.
Yeah, yeah. Why did you never really think that? Man, I should just hunt there.
I don't know. I just overlooked it.
Yeah.
Dude, it is hard to hunt near a parking lot.
It sure enough is.
I don't know if I've ever really hunted near a parking lot.
It's hard to hunt near any human anything.
I know.
I know. And part of that is just enjoyment factor.
Yeah, that's probably part of it. If you're sitting up and someone walks under you, you're going to get angry, and you're probably just trying to avoid that,
Yeah. That's so my Iowa buck, I was hunting near the road, but the road was they have Class B roads or something. I don't know. I forget what they're called, but and maybe even C, but it's denotes the maintenance that
minimum maintenance type roads. Yeah,
that they put on these roads or whatever. And so on that particular day, that being that it had rained, I knew nobody was going to be down there. So I didn't have any I had a good experience. I was alone and everything, but I literally was watching deer cross the road at the creek. At 80 yards, 70 yards, or whatever. So, but and that I think that can work, man. But it's hard, man, in a lot of situations when you talk about just hunting right next to the road. But I think especially that last weekend, if you say the 30th, like you're saying, and a cold front comes through, those deer are going to get exploratory very quick.
Yeah, that's right. Another thing that I've found in Illinois that's a big deal is that a lot of places, I think it's okay to let this out. I don't think this is particular to any specific WMA or whatever, but a lot of this stuff you have to park in the parking lots.
Yeah.
So hunting close to the road is no different than being way back if you're not close to the parking lot. You know what I mean? Whereas at home at our WMAs, most of them at least, you can kind of disperse park wherever you want to as long as you're off the pavement.
Yeah, side of the road.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And, with that in mind, some of the best trails we see are road crossing trails up here, so it makes pretty good sense, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. So have you ever done much hanging of trail cameras on scrapes or anything up here?
I did last year. I found a good scrape to hang a camera on, and then I got nothing but blowing branches for a good 2 months.
You told me about that.
Yeah, that's frustrating.
Yeah, it kind of ran my battery down. And it's at the moment when those bucks dispersed from that property, so I didn't get hardly anything. From that.
Yeah. What are your plans to keep, or to, I guess, to minimize that disappearance that happens on your trail cameras this year?
Maybe not.
Or you just
when
when
I put in the cameras, it was probably September. I mean, maybe late August. So to me, that's probably pretty late. Maybe get in there earlier than that and stay out of there.
Okay. So you feel like maybe that you messed some of those deer up, I guess?
Yeah, I'm thinking I probably did.
I got you. So, cell camera could help with some of that stuff
right.
too.
Yeah, we're going to have a few of those. Might have to hook you up with.
Yeah.
So, and that's one of those things that's awesome about the cell cam is that you are very minimally intrusive, right? So Moultrie actually has a new cell cam coming out. It's supposed to be this month, right, KC?
Yeah.
It's supposed to be, I think, $99 and has a cloud storage and everything. You've probably heard us talk about it. It's going to be pretty legit. We're pretty excited to try out the Moultrie cell cams. So looking forward to that and employing those on public land, because another thing that you get with a public land cell cam is the opportunity to put something way back and know that it's working, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if it's not, you're not disappointed after sitting there for 2 months, 3 months soaking with that trail camera and going in there and going, oh, there's nothing there, you know? So anyway, be ready for the Moultrie cell cams to launch this summer. It's going to be awesome, and we're going to definitely employ some of these in our arsenal.
I would say that, in my experience, it depends on how much you're in there kind of checking and stuff, but I wouldn't say late August is too close. Here's what I think, just kind of from what I've done. I think the key is to make a big clean sweep and get it all done in one day.
Right.
Because if you're like, I'm going to go in there and put this camera out, and then next week I'm going to put another one out, that's when you're making intrusions. But, man, it's like, you talked about this. Like, you thought that, like, if you bump a buck from its bed and he escapes with his life, he actually thinks that's a good bet.
Yeah, he got away.
He got away. Yeah, and I never thought of it that way, but it's a good point, you know? So it's kind of like that with...
He said that?
Yeah, I think he might have read it or something somewhere. But
I think I heard it
I got it
on
from
the podcast.
him.
It's cool.
Yeah.
It's cool. I like it.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about that.
But it's kind of like that with the trail camera thing. If you go in there one day and just, put out whatever cameras you're going to and then stay out until October or whenever you're going to go check, it's kind of like you, those deer are going to come back to that spot.
Yep.
You're not going to push them out by one time even,
Right.
A coyote runs through there every day,
Yeah.
So it's not like they... I don't know. Oh, a human, run away. It's just not quite how it works. So
KC, what do you think about what you've seen scouting on this trip? Because we did. Is it okay to say we went to Indiana this week?
Oh yeah.
So there was we saw different habitats than just Illinois too. What do you think about it all?
I've got a lot to think about on that deal. I think that Indiana has to hold some pretty good deer. I think that a decent amount of the public in Indiana is much harder to hunt than some of this stuff over here, because Indiana does have more hilly terrain stuff that's away from ag fields. A lot of stuff you see in Illinois is around ag, and it's kind of broken habitat or whatever, which is real good for hunting. It makes a lot of deer. But I think that as far as quality goes, you should find some of the similar stuff. Now, when you come back to Indiana, I'll say this: we were out, chasing turkeys all day, and I'd be walking around, and be like, man, look at the size of that old rub. And then I'm like, oh yeah, we're in Illinois. That's what they look like up here. There's big deer here, man.
Yeah. How on a scale of 1 to 10, how embarrassed are you about the shingle oak deal that happened this week?
Oh, like a 4.
Okay.
So it's like kind of how we open. Like there's stuff up here we don't know, we don't see, and we've been learning about it the whole time. And the thing with the shingle oak is it is a very non-identifiable leaf. Mm-hmm. It's just kind of a single-lobed leaf.
It could be a pawpaw.
Looks like a bay leaf.
A hickory. It could be a bay leaf.
Like it's tough, but we were scouting a real good spot and found a white oak cap. But I don't remember where a white oak tree was in there. But we found some red oak trees. And then there was all these other trees, and we're like, man, these must be like beech or something because it looks like oak on the bark, but the leaves don't look like it. So I don't know. And then actually it was bugging me. And we were walking out from scouting a place in Indiana, and I was on my phone the whole time on the walk out, and I finally was like, oh, this is what it is.
What it kind of came down to is because we've been looking at them all week, and it came down to like you said, like we found acorns that like had to be from those trees. And we were like, this is blowing our mind.
It also came down to I saw American beech trees, which look like American elms with really smooth bark. So I was like, what is that tree?
Yeah.
And then identified that as American beech, and I was like, well, okay, the things we have been calling beech are not beech, so what are those?
Yeah.
And finally figured that out. But
so what do you think about shingle oaks? How important are those to a hunting strategy up here?
I haven't the slightest clue.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that deer eat them.
Yeah.
I think that
pretty small acorn, really, right?
maybe.
Weren't they?
Yeah.
Or
I mean,
were
we
they-
found caps, so you don't know if they're really from pin oaks or if they're from, whatever they were from. So
I feel like the bigger ones we were finding were the like northern reds or whatever. We called them northern reds. I don't know if that's what they were or whatever.
yeah. So I don't know. It'd probably be something that Eric can probably help identify and kind of learn about a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know my trees very well.
Yeah.
That's one of the things as a public land whitetail hunter that's helped me a lot is kind of learning that. And it's only for kind of month of October and some in November, but like learning what oak trees are what, and really persimmons and other stuff like
persimmons.
that. That's what really helps, because then you're like, oh, okay, so it makes sense. But
I think pecans sometimes have some kind of a draw in Texas especially when you're talking about hogs. You know what I mean?
hell
Like,
yeah,
if you want to go kill some hogs, you need to know where some pecan trees are.
turkeys like pecan trees too.
Yeah.
They're good roost trees as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, they are because their branches are far apart. Got a lot of space in them.
yeah. What did you notice about Illinois?
I'm trying to think of what I can say here because there's some things that I noticed that we probably will talk about off of air.
Yeah.
That
We did some scouting for YouTube purposes, and we did some scouting for us purposes on this trip.
Yeah.
So there's some things that won't ever see the light of day for you listeners out there.
Yeah, we. I don't know. There's to me. There's a lot to explore still up here, I think, for me. Like, there's a lot of stuff. I mean, it just fits into, since we live kind of in eastern Texas, like it fits into a travelable distance for us for the most part, because we got kind of a straight shot up to it. And it kind of, to me, like, I feel like you're getting that, a lot of times you can get kind of the taste of the East without having to drive all the way to Kentucky or Virginia or West Virginia or whatever, and even Ohio, and so maybe like that's one of the things that I noticed is that I definitely I want to continue exploring this stuff up here. I did notice that across kind of different parts of the state, and as you're going towards Indiana and stuff, things are really changing quite a bit. There's a lot of different landscapes here, and what I like about it is it feels like there's still big deer everywhere you go. You know what I mean? Like in Texas, obviously Texas is a lot bigger, but still same thing. Like as you change landscapes, it's not always that there's big deer in every landscape.
Well, a cool thing about Illinois is that it's not a super big state, but it's long, so it spans a lot of latitudes. Down in the southern part down there, we have spent some time with that Shawnee stuff. You're in some hills, but it looks like home a little bit.
Yeah, it's got that Ozark feeling. or whatever.
Yeah. And then as you go up, we were traveling the interstate, and we're like, what is that weird looking conifer? Like there's like there's like some changes going as you head north. And that's another thing that happens as you head north is the deer get a lot bigger too. So
Big bodies.
It kind of makes you excited, but you start seeing like, y'all have got the greenest grass up here for a place that's still like almost barely out of frost, like it's a different country.
I guess
here.
I've been just grateful and just kind of overlooked that my whole life.
We get a month of green grass.
Yeah.
It goes from dead from winter to May where there's some rain, And then June, it gets over 100 degrees and it all dies again. So, yeah. They actually have grass painting businesses down there. So,
Isn't that funny?
Isn't that cool?
I would love to paint my grass. So, like, I mean, there's I'm trying to think of anything specific. The shingle oaks was definitely a thing that I enjoyed learning about this week. Some of the birds were cool, man. And kind of speaking of that, like, we did some turkey hunting this morning. And I guess I kind of want to talk about that a little bit because we had a pretty fun morning.
It was fun.
We should have killed some birds. We had a lot of gobblers around, dude. It was nuts, man.
I did not expect to see that many turkeys.
I did not either.
I thought there would be one gobbler, and I was not expecting that.
It just felt like it was almost like that day in the Gila where
Somewhat.
like we would like go bump an elk, and then one would start bugling across the canyon and be like, we'd look at each other and be like, let's go. We'd just go over there and bump that one, and then we'd go bump another one. Like every time, like there was hardly any downtime until, about noon, just about.
Yeah. Well, at noon, it picked back up again.
Yeah.
But the I guess the downer is that it gets bright or daylight so early here that we were to the hunting spot or the parking lot at least by about 4:45, and that was still like probably 15 minutes too late. Mm-hmm. Or if
we saw the sun as we were walking in. Remember?
Yeah.
And so we kind of started out from behind a little bit, and we still kind of made it where we wanted to go, but we at the same time had to figure things out along the way. I think, and that kind of inhibited us a little bit.
Well,
I mean, what
we're
do
all
you
still
think
pretty new, so
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You're kind of new to hunting in general. And,
this is my first turkey hunt ever, so
as a shooter, right?
Yeah,
You've been as a film
as
guy
a film.
little
I
bit.
film my buddy, but going as a shooter, this was my first turkey hunt. So,
and I'm not very experienced turkey hunting. Tyler's probably got the most experience, but most of yours are with Rios, right? Which kind of seem to be a lot different than Easterns from my little experience with both.
I mean, I feel like the landscape is one of the biggest differences. Like where I've killed Rios is West Texas. I mean, you're talking about everything's got a thorn on it, and there's big fields a lot of times that you just can go set up on in the late morning and stick decoys at 20 yards out there, and birds can see those and come to you.
They just kind of roam.
They just roam. Yeah.
These birds didn't roam. They kind of had their little ridges that they kind of camped out on. Yeah. I mean, what did you think about our first morning experience? Kind of tell us a little bit about what we did and what happened.
it was wild, that's for sure. It's kind of everything I expected. You go in there, you listen for them, and just go after them. I don't know what I would have done different, though. It's hard telling with. It's just hard telling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure.
It's a tough thing to do.
You had at one point a couple of gobs that were like 60 yards from you.
They were coming.
And that's the issue that we were seeing. Like you were talking about, they kind of wanted to be on these little ridges, and it was a struggle to get decoys to the highest point of a ridge without being seen by the birds. That's kind of what I felt like the whole time.
I've done a little bit of researching and reading and listening on podcasts about turkey hunting in particular, and I hear that guys that hunt Easterns don't use decoys as often, and that's kind of more of a Rio and Miriam's type deal. I'm sure there's guys that are like, well, I use them all the time, whatever, but I've read that. Somebody says that, and I've always thought, like, well, maybe Easterns are more shy of decoys, but I really wonder if it's just more difficult to get the decoys in a decent position, and that you end up getting busted. Because we busted a bird off the bird we were after, really. I don't know if we actually went out there the evening before and roosted a bird. That's kind of how we knew where they were. But I don't know if he's the one that we roosted or not.
Yeah, I don't know.
There ended up being way more turkeys than we thought there would be. But we were trying to set up on him, and I think kind of as we were getting decoys out, probably busted him. Mm-hmm. So I just wonder, if I hadn't been fiddle-faddling with them decoys around, if that would have gone differently. I don't know.
Yeah.
We just mentioned that Eric and I had gone out and did a little pre-scouting or roosting or whatever you want to call it on these turkeys. And I'd never been to the property before. We show up at pretty much twilight, and we go out there, and Eric goes woof, woof, on his little hooter thing, and we hear this turkey gobble. And I was actually able to get on my Onyx Maps app on my phone and kind of judge the distance that I think that turkey was away, and use the line distance tool there on the app and decide which little finger ridge I thought that gobbler was on. And the next day, there ended up being way more gobblers on that ridge than what we originally thought, so it didn't come into play that much. But there were 3 gobblers that ended up being on that exact ridge that I had dropped a pin on using the line distance tool. So it works. Be sure and click the link below if you were interested in Onyx Maps and sign up for one of their subscriptions down there.
I think if we had decoys where those 2 would have seen them, it was game over.
At the very beginning.
Yeah, because I mean, I was one of the only ones who could see them really good. K.C. could see them a little bit. Yeah, and that was it. Like that was what they did the whole time. When they came out on top of the ridge, they just stood there with their heads straight up for minutes. And I'm like, please just keep working, because they were yards from being able to see those decoys.
Have y'all heard of reaping? When it comes to turkeys, you know what that is?
It's what I would like to do.
Me too. So
I don't really know.
It's kind of like how some of these purists are poo-poo on shooting bearded hens, and all that, or shooting fall turkeys. The purists think that this is like, it's not the right way to hunt a turkey. I like to eat turkeys and shoot them, so I'm all about it. I think that here's what reaping is, apparently. It's flagging a turkey with a fan. So those turkeys are like, what's going on or whatever, and you just like fold this fan up, and apparently it's like an instinctive reaction. They go to it, which makes sense.
Yeah.
They're competing for a hen, right? That's called reaping. It's like what those guys are doing when they're shooting turkeys on the ground at like 6 yards. They're kind of hiding behind the decoy. And I kind of think in that situation,
if I'd have had a
if you'd have had a fan over there, them turkeys might have went.
I think you're right, man.
Yeah,
because when they first came out, one of them started strutting after a few minutes, and I couldn't get video of it because I felt like I couldn't move. I mean, I'm 80 yards, but there's just, dude, when they got that long neck, you're just like, goodness, dude.
Well, we're in a spot,
move.
we're in big timber, and they'd burned it, I guess, in early spring or something. So it's fairly open. There's not a ton of cover in there. And you feel like, man, I can't really scratch my nose or do anything in there. And then that was the same way. Like, I was kind of down the pipe from the decoys. Like, you could have drawn a straight line between me and the turkeys, and the decoys are right there. So I felt like the whole time, like, man, they're probably looking right at me. I can't do anything.
Yeah. I mean, they retreated after they didn't see anything, and they were hearing us still call and stuff. They were pretty wise, I think, but we called them back up the hill, and I thought it was going to happen.
Well, we moved the decoys a little bit.
Well, we called them back up there too as well. I don't know if you knew that they left at one point.
I think so.
The 2 went back down the hill, and we called one of them back up, and that's when I got a bunch of video of him gobbling at Eric calling.
They like Eric's mouth call.
They did.
He can speak the language, dude.
It was crazy, dude. Like, I feel like you and I got a pretty good voice call, and they were not liking it.
You thought it was a volume thing.
It might have been.
Right.
I think there's a possibility, yeah. But I don't know. Later in the morning, I thought maybe not, because I was like, there's something about the tone that sounds just a little bit more raspy hen or something,
I don't know.
Because I can make that pitch, but the rasp is hard for me to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. But we ended up moving the decoys up and trying to reposition on those birds because we knew they were hot and they wanted to see those hens. And we were like literally about to do that. Like, they were coming back up the hill, I guess for a 3rd time. And all of a sudden we hear, from down like not in a good place.
Not
pretty much right off the parking lot of the other ridge.
Exactly.
Say that.
Yeah.
Oh boy, heard them gobs that we were working and came up there and tried to call them and just completely threw a grenade into everything we were doing, and it was over at that point. We lost all those gobblers, which, I mean, that's just kind of part of it. And you probably really like that since you like the challenge and all. It was probably the best part of the day for you. But for me,
not the best part. Not at all.
For me, I was really disappointed. Nothing against that fella. He was just trying to kill a turkey too. But it's very inconvenient for us. Yeah. Then we ended up walking kind of we were working this big ridge on the way out, and you were calling every 100, 150 yards, and then we're just walking along and bust some gobs right there pretty close to kind of where we were going to exit. And we'd actually walked by them. Mm-hmm. They were on this little secondary ridge, just 3 of them just strutting it up over there. Just hung up, wouldn't even move or anything. We were working hard on those birds, and they finally ended up moving out on us too, and figured out that, like you were saying, terrain's a big deal. Like, Eric and I made like a suicide push to try to go kill them, and they were gone. But, I mean, we lost probably 40-foot elevation and gained it, like in a just, 50 yards or something. It's a big, deep ravine. And you can tell, like, those birds knew where we were as far as turkeys. They didn't know we were humans. And they wanted over there, but
they just couldn't.
They just couldn't do it. Yeah, there wasn't no way it was going to happen. It was like futile at that moment. So I don't know. I think that
the craziest part of the day is when we were sitting there at noon and we were just sitting there calling. There's nothing going on. I told K.C. he's like, well, let's work back down the road towards the field and let's go see if they're in the field. And we literally stand up and K.C.'s, oh, they're strutting over there. They're 200 yards away from us.
I'd literally 5 seconds before that did a goofy elk call at Tyler to mess with him because we were fixing to leave. And then I look over and there's a black thing. What is that? Yeah.
Yeah. And then we proceeded to call them for like 25 minutes and nothing
happened. I don't know where they went or what happened. I don't know. I kind of wonder a lot on this stuff if there were hens involved that we never really saw. Those disappearing birds. But
on the outdoor TV we were watching earlier, the hens were just bringing them right up to these guys.
Man.
When does that happen?
I guess whenever you go with the outfitter in southern Nebraska. I don't know.
Probably.
Don't happen in public land in Illinois.
I might need to do that next year.
I know,
an outfitter from Nebraska, can you please contact theelementwild.com?
No kidding. But
I'm going to be reaping some turkeys.
Yeah, for real.
For my freezer.
You still have quite a bit of time left in your season.
Yep, I got till the 13th.
And you're still going to do it with bow?
Yep.
So this is the end of the turkey season, though.
Yeah.
This is like, because up here we've got different tags for different seasons, and so we've actually got a late season tag. But you've got opportunities, I think, man.
Yeah.
And we found that roosting tree today, so that's where I'm going to concentrate.
We did. So actually, we ended up, at the end of the day, where we kind of had those last surprise noon gobblers, made a big circle in the vehicle and came up from the other direction. And it seems like a little bit easier access, I think, than the way we had originally gone in. I think you could probably kind of slip in right there into those roosting trees and just do some hunting. I don't know. I kind of think that, especially if you're solo hunting up there, you might just go up there and camp out and just kind of wait on one to come by.
That's not a bad idea.
That might be the easiest way for you to get an archery shot too. If he, when you're calling those birds, they're like looking.
Yeah.
But if he doesn't have a care in the world, he's just pecking grasshoppers. You might be able to just draw and shoot one.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Another thing is every bird we saw today was a big old rope dragger.
Man,
there wasn't any stupid jakes around.
No, it wasn't jakes. It wasn't hens.
No,
it's like pretty much just gobs
everywhere.
My goodness, man.
Yeah.
That was fun, dude.
It was.
It was a fun morning. Well, so do you have any other thoughts about like what you're gonna do the rest of this turkey season?
Well, I think K.C. made a great point right there. Maybe I'm probably going to try that out. Maybe try just be quiet and get close to those roost trees. And if that doesn't work, like I said, I go by what I learned from the previous day and take it to the next.
Well, we were talking about that. I feel like I learned a lot today.
Yeah.
We don't get to turkey hunt a lot. So it's nice to have these days where you have a lot of encounters because if we just only saw like one bird today, I feel like I wouldn't have learned anything.
Yeah.
And especially on like a weekly basis, I feel like there's a lot to be taken from our experiences today to help you have success. Are you hunting tomorrow?
I don't know. I think it depends on the rain.
Yeah.
It's
there's supposed to be a
right
lot of rain tomorrow, isn't there?
Yeah.
Well, that's duty.
Yeah. I'd like to, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we have to head out tomorrow. We got to make it back to the house. It's like, 16 hours or something like that. So
16 million hours.
16 million. I'm real sad because I'd like to go hunt with you some more. That was a lot of fun.
I think if you guys would stay, I think we could get it done.
Oh,
I
you're gonna get it done
I think I
without
could
us.
still get it done, but
I don't really know if we were any help at all today, but it was fun, and it was fun.
But just having 3 people all, bouncing
we talk
ideas.
about that all the time. Man.
Bouncing ideas off each other
Bouncing
really helps.
ideas is the
It's huge. That's
Big
why
deal.
like going out and scouting like this together is such a big. Back to the whitetail stuff, like you can all just sit there and process stuff. And you probably saw it the other day when Tyler and I were trying to process like those double trails coming through those fence holes. Like the ability to back and forth and like shoot holes in everybody's boats in a nice way. Like that's you get some critical thinking done that way.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how you narrow it down because there's like thousands or millions of ways that you can go into the woods and not shoot a buck. And there's about 10 that you can go in and shoot a buck. You know what I mean? So it's like, if you're not shooting holes in it, man, the chances that you get one of those 10 ways of shooting a buck is pretty slim.
It sounds like us calculating draw odds the other day. I don't know how these fractions all work, but if there's more guys, it's got to be better, right?
We gotta have a chance, right?
Gotta have better chances.
Come on.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, and I talk about this real quick. What was the coolest thing you found this weekend? Because you might have trouble narrowing that down.
I
but
do have
I got
trouble.
an idea of what you might.
You want to just list off a couple of the cool
Yeah,
things we
that's
found?
a good idea.
I found. I will probably start from me, from top to bottom. I'm sorry, from bottom to top, and like you throw in where you think something that you too that you think is cool that you found personally. For me, I found chicken in the woods, mushrooms. Got them in the refrigerator right there. Actually, before that, I took cuttings off a mulberry tree that I'm going to go home and root. Chicken in the woods.
You hope that it's an everbearing Illinois, right?
Well, I did some research on that. Illinois everbearing is actually a hybrid of a red mulberry and a
a white.
Pakistani mulberry.
Oh.
Yeah. So it's not even a wild mulberry.
Cool.
But so it will be an Illinois mulberry, but maybe not an everbearing.
Yeah.
But I found chicken in the woods. Got that in the refrigerator. And then I found my first morel mushrooms. Mm-hmm. Those are in the backpack still. I think they're going to be okay.
This is from bottom from top?
Yeah.
Dang.
The top. Yeah.
Mushrooms number 4, huh?
Chicken in the woods
Well,
was
I don't know.
over Morel?
No.
Oh.
Bottom to top.
Oh.
I have one more.
Hey.
I think.
Okay.
My next one would be the mineral lick mud scrape hole
Yeah.
that I found. That was the strangest whitetail sign I've ever seen.
Yep.
I've heard about these type things, but people usually are like planting them. And I really think that this is a native one. Mm-hmm. There were a slew of trails that all converged in the middle of this willow thicket. And I'm thinking bedding, right? Like that's what you're thinking. Like, oh, there's going to be a bed in here. It's cool. And there's rubs around, which kind of was like, oh, all right. And I'll walk up, and then there's this syrup tub-sized hole in the ground, and it's just a giant mud ball, and there's deer tracks all around it. And they have just been going in there and eating dirt and licking it up and just making scent and nasty and like,
I feel like that hole was almost like dead center in the middle of that drain.
It
too.
was, yeah.
And so like I wonder if there's some kind of mineral coming off that hill or something that is ending up right there.
there's a spring or something
Yeah, and the
pushing
spring's
iron
pushing
up.
it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's real weird. I do think that we will be employing a brother of mine to set out a trail camera on that place
cameras.
later in the summer because I'm real interested in what goes on there. I've never seen that before in my life. Mm-hmm. Now, anyone else find anything cool this week?
That was probably my coolest thing I found.
Yeah, that was
You didn't find that.
pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah.
You were there for it.
Yeah, I was just there.
I'm just messing with you, man.
I found a pretty sweet shed.
You did. I was wondering where that one. That's up there with the whole mineral hole as
Yeah.
far as just cool factor. It's big, dude.
Yeah, it's main frame 4-point side, but it's got like around the base. It's got like 2 or 3 extras. One that looks like a hatchet, little baby hatchet, and then it's got like a little thing in between its brow and its G2 that kind of comes almost kind of off the back, but it's built like a normal tine kind of.
It looks like an extra brow tine.
Yeah.
Like
And-
if it didn't have its normal brow tine, I'd be like, oh, that's brow tine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like halfway between the brow and the G2, and it's got like a little hole right there where it developed. Like he injured it, and that's one of the cooler sheds I've ever found. It's also like it's a sizable shed. Like it's not just a small. Like it looks like it came off an old deer that's on the way down or whatever kind of
big base.
So yeah, good base, and it was a good fresh antler. You know, brown still and everything. Pedicle looks cool. So that was one of my favorite finds. You know, I enjoyed finding a lot of the deer sign on some of the stuff that we're hoping to hunt. I enjoyed finding deer sign actually on one that we did a Map Scout challenge of. It kind of hyped me up. Like I was like, man, this is a Map Scout challenge we should definitely put out in about December.
Yeah.
You know, it's like one of those things like, man, I really want to hunt this place,
I know, man.
But I liked, I don't know, like sometimes when you just find a spot where you're like, I could kill a buck here, and I feel really good about that. And there's just a lot of sign around. It's just shredded up, and you're like, man, some mature bucks have spent time right here.
That's where I bumped that buck out of its bed, that place too, you know? So it's like, not that we didn't know there were deer there, but like when you see one, it makes you just feel that much better. You know?
Yep. So, I mean, there's other things that, you know, I saw along the way that I really thought were cool, but I can't place them all right now because it's day 5 or whatever, and I'm fuzzy brain and everything else. But
yeah, well, I think that this evening we're going to go. We're kind of taking it easy. You know, we're about to head out tomorrow morning, and so we're going to go out to eat and just kind of do the thing. I figured out that I've been charging all the food to the church card a while ago, so I now have to do some swapping around of funds to make sure I'm not Ananias and Sapphira up in here. So I got, you know, but that's cool. But tonight we'll make sure and not use that card. But
that's a good idea.
Yeah, we're gonna go out and take it easy. Be 6 de Mayo. So I think that's the day everybody goes back to non-cultural appropriation, and then
we actually did a Cinco de Mayo dinner last night after we did our cruiser collab mobile hunting thing. It was fun, man. And we did a collab on Instagram. If you haven't seen it, you can do that, or we'll probably put it out as a podcast at some point here pretty soon.
Did your phone take mileage yesterday?
Mileage?
Sorry, your watch.
Oh, no. My watch won't take mileage for summer. It'll do steps, and that's about it.
Yeah.
What brand is it?
Garmin.
It's cool. I want a Garmin watch.
Yeah, I love it. Besides the mile thing.
It's cool.
Yeah. Well, you might be able to
and you might be able to do it, and I just don't know it yet.
Yeah, that's how a lot of stuff is for me, too.
Yeah.
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
But I just kind of wonder, because we hogged out on the Taco Bell last night, and I know that, like, when I feel nasty from Taco Bell, and I didn't feel that, I think I needed that Taco Bell. You know what I mean?
I know, dude.
Like, because we put it in yesterday.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
What are those tacos that you got me?
Cheesy gordita crunches.
That is one of the best things.
It's one of the best.
It's so good, dude. Like I have to. That's just a pro tip for guys wanting to go to Taco Bell.
Yeah.
Cheesy gordita crunch.
Hashtag not sponsored, but I wish. One day.
Man, you telling me? I mean, they sell Mountain Dew there, right? Mountain Dew's sponsoring everybody in the outdoor industry.
I think Casey's is wanting to sponsor.
Oh,
that's right.
You should talk to him. Are you related to any of Casey's?
Dude. I made the Casey's story.
Yeah,
that was cool.
It's a big deal, dude.
Should have put that on my list.
They have 500 followers.
That's
what?
it?
I'm kidding.
No way. It was like, golly, we got to do some promoting for them. My boy Drake Lamb was jealous.
He was, man. Especially when I told him that Buc-ee's was better. Well, I guess it's a good time to wrap up. Eric, we're very glad to have you, man, and we appreciate the hard work you put in with us so far. And hopefully this can be something that goes on for years and years, man.
I know, man. I have
cool
one
stuff.
final question to wrap up the podcast with. Eric.
Oh, gosh. Here we go. Let's do it.
Would you rather us call you G Money, E? What do you think? What's the best? Or just Eric?
I think you guys should just come up with that.
Okay.
I'll probably call you Rick quite a bit. I like Rick.
You know, people call me Rick. So.
I like Rick.
Yeah. Slick Rick.
Slick Rick.
Shooting the slick tricks.
We got another buddy, Eric. They call him Slinging Rick, which is pretty funny because he used to kind of miss a few deer along the way. But he's kind of zoned
now
in
he
on
just
it
kills
now.
everything.
He kills them all.
Yep.
But, Eric, my final question for you. Well, maybe I have 2 questions. Can I have 2 questions?
Yeah, it's good. Those.
First one is going to be shorter. How big is the deer you're going to kill in South Dakota this year?
South Dakota.
Uh-huh.
Can I answer
know.
this question for me too?
I don't really know the bucks there, so I don't know.
Well, there's James, there's Jimmy, and
Jimmy Buck, James Buck.
what was that thing we came up with earlier today?
Oh.
Oh, that's right. I don't believe in luck, but I believe in big bucks.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, I like good bucks.
That's right.
I'm gonna go for at least 115 inch. We'll say that.
Dang, dude. Lefty better hope he comes
like
down
it.
that side of the trail.
Know it.
The buck that I'm going to shoot in South Dakota is going to be 67 inches.
Is that a plus or a minus compared to your deer from last year?
It's a plus minus.
Yeah, that deer's probably right there at that, don't you think?
Yeah, probably right.
It's a nice
I need to score him. I'm actually interested in seeing what a basket eight scores.
We all we throw around this 120, 130 thing a lot. I wonder what a 2-year-old 8-point scores. Like that.
Or
it's
a 1-year-old 8-point.
Maybe we should do a video on that.
I think we should.
Well, I'll get that 115 and we can, right?
Dude, if
Yeah.
you shoot a 115, we're going to eat everything. We're going to eat everything, dude.
Yeah,
we're going
for
back
sure.
straps, and then that night we're going to get pizza later on. And
So, okay, the maybe a little bit more expanded version. What are you looking forward to the most this fall?
I think going to other states and seeing deer hunting in other states because I think I can learn something from it and maybe use it here. Mm-hmm. Hopefully use it
yeah,
here.
dude, I'm telling you, we talked about it before, but just doing the Map Scout Challenge in multiple states last year and different properties and stuff, I felt like we just leaps and bounds, just gained so much knowledge about how to find deer and obviously like the moment of truth is something that you kind of only get you get better at with the experience of the moment of truth, but like getting to that point, we gained a lot of knowledge last year doing that, and I think probably you'll do the same, man. You seem like a very critical thinker and a guy who's always trying to get better and very competitive.
Yeah,
so
I am.
It's good, dude.
Yeah.
We get 6 guys going to South Dakota. Eric's gonna be like up in that number the whole time. Like, what? Like day one of us knocks down a 120. Eric is gonna be like, okay,
nothing smaller.
130.
Yeah, we're gonna be placing side bets and stuff.
I know it.
Yeah. Well, is that all your questions for him?
Yeah, I think we play the question game a lot.
Yeah.
When Eric and I are just by ourselves.
Yeah.
Because Eric is, in a good way, not a speak first kind of guy too much,
Mm-hmm.
So our conversations are a lot of K.C. asking Eric questions about life.
Yeah.
But it's fun. I like to learn. You're my first friend, really. Well, no, I've had other friends from Illinois, but like the first guy I've hung out with a lot from Illinois.
Cool.
Who's open about saying stuff. Some people up here are secretive about their stuff.
Yeah.
But
They live in Chicago.
that's right. But
Yeah.
it's just cool to kind of learn about different parts of the country and how people grew up and doing stuff. And
I'm in the same boat. I mean,
Yeah.
like I'm with you, Eric. Like moving around, seeing deer hunting, and seeing different places is just so much fun, man.
Yeah.
And like I kind of have this goal, and I don't know if it'll happen every year, but I'm trying to make it happen right now, year after year. Is just to hunt a new state every year.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
And so hopefully that happens this year. Kind of waiting on draws and scheduling stuff out for what we know we're going to go do and that kind of thing. But I do really enjoy traveling, man, and seeing new parts of the country and learning about it and stuff. It's pretty awesome. No matter what side of the aisle your state votes on or whatever, I mean, still some cool things in pretty much every state. So, I don't know. I'm in the same boat, man. I think we all enjoy going around and seeing new things, meeting new people.
yeah, buddy. And killing big deer. That's what we're
deers.
going to do this year, Eric. I'm ready. Dude, you got your first double punch out of the way on the camera
got
this
that
year.
out of the way.
Yeah, so we ain't got to worry about that. We're just going to get stuff on film and kill a lot of big bucks this fall.
Yeah. What kind of food we eating tonight?
I don't know. What do you want? What do you like?
I like everything.
Yeah.
I am not picky. We talked about wings earlier. Is that kind of what y'all are thinking? Are you?
I love
you
wings.
love
We
wings?
don't have to do beat up. There's a other good place over there that has burgers and chicken sandwiches, wraps.
I think wings will be fine.
Cool.
Goodness, I've got that that voice that you get when you wake up in the mornings.
You're tired.
Yeah,
I do too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's a good voice, really.
Radio
It's a
voice.
radio voice.
Yeah.
But it's got a little crispy.
I used
in
to
it.
listen to a radio show every day, 3 hours a day about Texas A&M sports. That's how much of a loser I was, and still am. But one of the guys on that radio show is named Olin Buchanan. If you ever watched the show Varsity Blues, he is the guy who interviews. What's the quarterback's name? Do you remember? I can't remember. What's it like being? Remember that
Sweet
guy?
Tea or whatever his name is?
No, not really.
What is his name?
Yeah.
I can't think of it.
I can't think of it either. But he's the guy who does that interview in that movie. But he got this kind of squeaky voice from East Texas. But this is so anecdotal that y'all don't care. But once or twice a year, he gets bad allergies, and he goes into this baritone, really good voice. It's kind of inverted. Like most of the time he's got a weird voice, but every once in a while a good voice.
Yeah, you and I've always talked about how Cam Haynes has such a great voice for this kind of stuff.
Scratchy.
It's so scratchy.
Yeah.
I think it's because he's always tired because he's running so much. That's what I think it is, man.
I bet he has scarring on his lungs.
And his larynx.
That's a good way to not pick up on the gain on our podcast when you start talking like that.
Yeah.
You can also talk like this. But with that, I think it's a good time to rock and roll and get out and get some supper. Guys, thank y'all for listening and hanging out with us. I hope you're excited to have Eric along for the ride this fall because we sure are. I'm sure you'll be hearing quite a bit more from him, as much as we can get out of him at least. He's kind of a more quieter kind of guy, but he's always listening, which is a good thing, man. I think that people like that can learn a lot in the woods and end up being those stone cold killers that everybody hears about but doesn't ever hear from. So that might be Eric. He might have a whole barn full of giant bucks and we don't even know because he hadn't told us yet. So
Yes, man.
I know it, man. I know it.
We
But,
haven't looked in his barn yet.
yeah, I hope y'all are staying safe, staying dry, and possibly looking forward to warm weather. I know that fishing is on the horizon for us right now. We've been talking about all kinds of Rocky Mountain clear streams and all kinds of stuff. So plan a vacation with your family pretty soon, guys. It's a good time to get that done. Brownie points expire within 24 hours, but hey, it never hurts to get one every once in a while to try to hang on to. Remember to do that this summer, and remember, this is your element.
Live in it.
Hey everybody, listen up. I got mega huge news. Meat Eater Live is heading back out on the road. That's right. Join me and the crew. Clay Newcomb, Cal, Yanni, Spencer's going to be there. Phil the engineer's going to be there. Meat Eater Live headed back out. Now, when you get every ticket, okay? Every ticket you buy, you get a signed copy of our new Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook. This tour is celebrating the release of the book. Buy a ticket, get a signed copy, Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook, wild game recipes for the grill, smoker, camp stove, and campfire, which I'll point out is a $38 value. Here's where we're going to go. April 23rd, the Mesa Art Center in Mesa, Arizona. April 24, the Balboa Theater in San Diego. April 25, the Grove in Anaheim, California. April 27, the Crest Theater in Sacramento. April 29, the Union in Salt Lake City. April 30, the Egyptian in Boise. May 1, the Wilma Theater in Missoula. May 2, the Bing Crosby Theater in Spokane, Washington. May 4, Revolution Hall in Portland, Oregon. And May 5, the last day of the tour, Pantages Theater in Tacoma, Washington. For tickets and more information, visit the events page at themeateater.com. Hope to see you at the show.